Hello, listeners, and welcome to this week's episode of I Never Knew But My Dog Did podcast, otherwise known as Inc. I am Maureen Scanlon. I am a master life coach helping you with self love, self confidence, just all the things that you need that you want to live this life of fullness. And that's who I am and what I do for you. As always, bring you wonderful guests. I say this every single episode. I'm going to keep doing it. I can't wait for you to meet my next guest. He's got two mottos, and I want him to tell you what his mottos are. And when I read his mottos, I thought, I love that because that's the truth. It's so relevant and so I'm teasing you guys on that. And we're gonna do a little more teasing later on in the episode. But let me introduce you to John Kippen. He is an entrepreneur, professional magician, speaker, resilience and empowerment coach, and a published author. He was dealt a bad blow in 2002 when he was diagnosed with a large benign brain tumor. Its removal, although successful, left him with permanent facial paralysis, which stopped his forward momentum, forcing him into hiding for more than 12 years. Wow. As John hit bottom, he rediscovered his childhood love for performing magic, excuse me, and storytelling, which I love. I love this. See if we can talk him into doing a magic trick for us. Now filled with passion and hope, he discovered that his facial difference had become his greatest superpower. This new mindset gave John the strength to live life with joy and become a sought after resilience and empowerment coach who uses the lessons and methodologies he learned overcoming his adversity to inspire and assist his clients to get out of their own way and live their best lives. Hoorah, hoorah. Without further ado, want to say hello to you, Mr. John Kippen. How are you?
Good morning, Maureen.
Good morning, Vietnam. It is so awesome to have you here. I'm
I'm honored to
thrilled.
be here.
Well, I love your story, your background. So here at I Never Knew, we start off with a knee story, and our knee story is sort of your moment after you had your tumor removed, or when you had that tumor while you were going through it. And it's one of those moments in our lives where we're just on our knees and feeling very hopeless and helpless and where do I go from here and what is my meaning of my life? What's my purpose? So can you bring us into your knee story and what it was like for you experiencing some of the struggles that you have?
Sure. So as you said, I had a brain tumor. They gave me 4 days to decide whether or not I was going to have it removed, but it was causing me so much dizziness, I had no choice. And so I was operated less than a week after I was diagnosed. And it was a 17-hour surgery. They didn't prepare me for potential facial paralysis. They didn't prepare me for what it was like to go through brain surgery. The doctors don't understand the ramifications of them performing surgery because they've never had it done to them. They
Oh,
don't
you.
realize, I went deaf on my left ear. They never prepared me for what it was like to go through life not being able to hear on my left side,
Wow.
not being able to detect direction of sound. I tell this funny story where I got home, I was healing, and all of a sudden a battery was low on a smoke detector, and it started chirping, chirp. And I got up. Of course, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. It never happens at noon. It's always 3 a.m. So I wake up and I'm standing under the one in the bedroom waiting and waiting. Chirp. No, it's not that one. All right, run to the kitchen. Set. Wait. Wait. Chirp. Nope, not that one. Go to the living room. Chirp. No, I don't think it's that one either. So I ended up having to call my neighbor to come over and tell me which one it was so I could get back to sleep. She wasn't very happy. It was 3:30 in the morning. But things like that, just didn't, doctors don't prepare you for surviving.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my downward spiral began when I woke up in surgical recovery. Excuse me. And it took me minutes to get to the surface. It was like I was swimming under a deep pool and trying to get to the surface. And when I finally came to, I noticed my dad was sitting on the side of the bed, holding my hand and smiling. But I looked around the room and I didn't see my mom, so I asked my dad for my glasses. And as I was putting my glasses, I realized my head was bandaged. So that was a task. And once I kind of got them on, I looked and I saw my mom standing in the corner with a horror look on her face. Like, what did these butchers do to my son's face? And at that point, I didn't know my face was paralyzed. I just knew the dizziness was gone. And that was a hallelujah moment. But later that day, nurses helped me to the bathroom so I could wash my face. And I looked at it and I went, wow, my face is screwed up. And then the doctor came in and I said, so when's my face going to move? And he said, we were operating, we had good facial movement until the very end when we closed the incision, and we think just swelling caused the temporary facial paralysis. So we have every hope that it'll come back. But it never did. And so I own a computer consulting company that I fortunately was able to run from my home. And I didn't have to go out and meet clients, although that was who I am. I'm a human being. I'm a relationship guy, and
Mhm.
uh, but I stayed at home and just talked to people on the phone and organized my guys to go out and support my computer consulting company. But I started getting really bored, and I turned to playing semi-professional poker because at a poker table, no one cares what you look like. They just want your money.
Right.
But I started to develop these relationships with these degenerate gamblers. And that's not who I wanted to surround myself with. So one night I'm watching TV and there was a David Copperfield special on. And it rekindled my love for performing magic when my Uncle Milton at the age of 5 pulled a quarter out of my ear. And I said, that's where I find my joy is performing. I'm a creative problem solver. So I finally got the courage to go and audition for be a member at the Magic Castle, which is a private club in Los Angeles for magicians.
Wow.
And I went and I auditioned and I passed. And so I started going every weekend and kind of was shy and watching the other magicians perform and saw the laughter and the great smiles on people's faces and just the awe and astonishment of magic. So I started practicing and I put together 3 or 4 tricks and I would sit down at a table and people would come over to the table and because they knew I was there to perform magic, but they were reserved. They didn't know what to make of me. They see this guy that's overweight, balding with a paralyzed face sitting behind a table. But they gave me an opportunity to prove who I was. And within minutes of me performing, the they were able to look past my paralysis and into my heart and see who I was. I put my spectators on the pedestal. I made the magic about them. Every magical moment was because they did something. But they were still distracted by my paralysis. Well, was it because he had a stroke or does he have Bell's palsy or what? So that was keeping them from being present, 100% present. So I changed the opening of my act and I would say, guys, welcome. My name is John. I've been doing magic since I was 6. But in 2002, I had a brain tumor. And when they cut out my head to get the brain tumor, they traumatized my facial nerve. But something happened to me on that operating room table. Now, I'm not sure what it was because, well, I was unconscious and all I know is I recovered. Well, I realized I had acquired some new skills. And then I would pause and wait for the audience to get on the edge of their seat, wanting to know what possible skills I acquired. And I looked to my right and then looked to my left like it was the biggest secret in the world. And I would lean in and whisper in a loud voice, guys, I'm able to visualize people's thoughts. And then I would do mentalism or mental magic.
That's my favorite. Oh my gosh. Oh, I love that. I love that. Oh,
And all of a sudden, they understood why my face was paralyzed. And it was no longer keeping them from being in the moment.
yeah.
But what I discovered, the more authentic I became, and the more I shared my healing journey, people needed to hear that. People needed to be inspired, no matter what they were going through.
Yeah.
And I have dozens of stories for people who are going through cancer, or one woman who had just recently had a double mastectomy and didn't feel comfortable in her own skin. And I was able to communicate on a human level what life is about. Taking your passions, no matter what your differences are, and make them your superpower. One of my taglines, as you referenced earlier, was being different is your superpower. It's what makes you you. It's what makes you unique. It's what makes you interesting. And so most people hide from that. They're balding and they're overweight or they have a big nose or whatever. They have a paralyzed face or a lazy eye. But if you're honest with people about your shortcomings, but you don't let them stand in your way, you're going to be yourself no matter what you look like or how you act or if you have Tourette's or whatever. People identify you and they want to drink your secret sauce.
Yeah.
They don't exactly know why, but they know that they see something attractive, not in a physical or sexual way. It's an emotional way. It's in a inspiring way.
Yeah.
So now, as a resilience and empowerment coach, I teach people how to get out of their own way, how to
Yeah.
go back to the traumas in their lives and put them in perspective
And
and
John,
find the strength.
I'm so sorry I don't want to interrupt, but I want to make sure that I reiterate this for the listeners of what you're saying. It's so important. And this is the whole reason that I started the podcast and wrote the books because and why people such as myself and you want to do these speaking events and want to write books and want to coach people because I don't know, somewhere along the line, it's changed, thank goodness, for the better that we are now allowed to speak these things. We are now allowed to be authentic and vulnerable. And not only are we allowed, we are revered for it. Like, that's what these listeners are here for us right now. This is why they're here because they don't want to hear it or read about it in a book. They want to hear it from John's lips. What was that like to have a brain tumor? What was it like to have facial paralysis? What do you do? How do you do magic? And you drive home the point that we are not our physical. And after going through my own thing in the last 6 months and having some major PTSD and coming out of rehab for two weeks in a wheelchair because I couldn't walk from surgery. So you're preaching to the choir there. My surgeon said he's never experienced that before. So I hear you on that. There's not enough. Here's what could happen. We just want to prepare you for what could happen. And everyone, listeners, know how I feel about medical, and God bless the medical community. I was one of them. I started in nursing and was in it for 28 years, but we need to do better and do what John's doing, which is share. Let's tell everybody, here's what could happen. But if it does, John is going to tell us how to be resilient, how to overcome it, how to live your best life, how that doesn't have to stop you. So I wanted to drive those points home before we moved forward. So tell us how you overcame that. How did you, once you, excuse me, started doing the magic again, it just changed your whole outlook on life and you felt like you had a purpose again?
I'll tell you a story. So I was at the Magic Council looking for a fun group to do a show. And this woman dressed in all baggy black clothes, wearing a hat that reminded me of a witch's hat, was walking down the hallway, looking at her feet. You could tell she was not engaged. She was not there on her choice. She didn't want to be there. But as she approached, I said, "Hi, how are you?" And she stopped. But the look on her face is one of just leave me the heck alone. And she continued walking downstairs to catch up with the group. So of course I ignored her plea to be left alone, and I caught up with the group and asked them if they're having a good time, and they said, yes. I said, "Yeah, but have you seen any really good close-up magic?" And they shrugged their shoulders. So I said, "Come on, guys, let's go." And I took them to a corner table. And the woman who was dressed in baggy black clothes, her name was Darren. And I put Darren to the right of me. And I started my show and I made every magical moment about Darren and what she would do. And the magic happened because she touched the card. She thought of this. She predicted this, whatever. And within minutes, my goal for that 30-minute show was simply to get Darren to smile because I could see baggage. I could see a reason why she didn't want to be there. And I didn't know what it was. But my goal was just to get her to get engaged and smile.
Yeah.
Within 2 or 3 minutes of me starting my show and making it about Darren, she ditched the hat and she started sitting up straight. And her eyes started to dance and glisten. And she started to smile. And I could tell in that moment her baggage was gone. So I finished this 30-minute show. And normally audiences would applaud and then get up and move on to something else. But this group wanted more. So I shared the story about how I had hid from cameras and mirrors for over 12 years. And on August 3rd, 2017, when I went to my first magic convention in Las Vegas called Magic Live, it's the second largest magic convention in the world. And I was amongst the greatest minds in magic. Some of these magicians I'd looked up to for years. And I finally said, screw it, I'm going to take pictures with these great magicians. And I walked up to the magicians one at a time and asked someone else to take a selfie of us. And I did that 20, 30 times. And I got home and I uploaded the photos to my computer and it dawned on me like a light bulb moment. If these great minds in magic had no trouble taking a picture with me, what was my hang up? And that was the beginning of my healing moment. So I shared the story with Darren and her friends. And Darren stood and she motioned for me to stand, and I did. And she gave me one of these bear hugs that you don't soon forget. It's like having you seen a relative in 20 years. And she was holding on for dear life. And I was just in the moment. I was just enjoying it. And after a minute or so, she stood back and she was crying and said, "John, I need to share something with you. 4 years ago, I had a double mastectomy because I have the BRCA1 gene. And my mom, my aunt, and my sister all had their breasts proactively removed to prevent them from getting breast cancer. And I was the last in the family to do that. And my friends had to drag me here today because I didn't feel comfortable in my clothes. I didn't feel pretty. I didn't feel attractive. So I didn't want to be amongst all these other really attractive people. I thought I would stick out like a sore thumb. But then you started performing. And all of that fear, all of that apprehension disappeared. And I realized I was having an amazing experience. But then I heard your story about how you were hid from the world for 12 years. And it made me immediately understand that I've been hiding too by the baggy clothes I wear and the funny hats and my not making eye contact with people and my sarcastic sense of humor. And I think you just shaved 8 years off of my journey of hiding. And I fell back in my chair. I had no expectation of my story and my magic touching someone on such a profound level to change lives in a moment. And since she had been crying, she went to the bathroom to wash her face. And one of her friends was sitting there with her mouth wide open. She said, John, no, you don't understand what just happened. We've known Darren since college. And we've been trying to support her for the last 4 years after her double mastectomy. And you did it in 30 minutes? What we've been trying to do for 4 years. And in that moment, I knew my life's calling. I knew why I was put on this earth. I knew why I had developed a brain tumor. I knew why I had facial paralysis. It was to serve other people. And that's when I realized that it was my mission. And I have performed for dozens of people going through serious illnesses and brought them joy and given them hope. When Alex Trebek from Jeopardy came out with his terminal diagnosis on national television, asking for his fans' prayers and thoughts, I was so touched. I was a huge Jeopardy fan. I never got the final question right, but that never mattered. And living in Los Angeles, knowing that he lived in Los Angeles, I seeked out his daughter, Nikki. And I got a hold of her and I said, Nikki, I need to perform for your dad because I experiences bringing joy to people fighting cancer and giving them that strength to keep going. And I want to do that for your dad. And she was so touched and surprised. She said, well, we're having a 75th birthday party for him. You want to be the entertainment? You're more than welcome.
Wow.
And I had 3 weeks to build a brand new show with a Jeopardy theme. And you can see clips from that show on johnkippen.com. Um, and I had him sitting next to me at the table. And he was so smart. You know, he was one of these celebrities above reproach,
Oh,
unlike
yeah.
unlike the Matt Lauers of the world. And these tricks were being done. And he was just playing with me so much. It was just an amazing experience. So after the 30-minute show was over, he and I went to another room in the restaurant and were alone. And I said, Alex, I just wanted you to know that I seek you out. Your message to the world about what you were going through took so much strength and so much courage. I wanted to know you were heard. And you touched a place in my heart with that vulnerability. And I just wanted to say on the behalf of the trillions of Jeopardy fans, thank you. And he started getting emotional. He said, John, no one ever takes the time to thank me for my life's work. They just take it for granted. And I said, well, I certainly don't. And that's why I'm here, just to show you your value and to give you some peace and strength that you are making a difference in this world.
Hmm.
And we love you.
That's
And he gave me such a great hug.
Ah, it's so
My,
beautiful.
it's one of my finest moments.
Yeah. Because you,
You
the
know, I
serving,
live.
that heart that you have, that serving heart that you have, and that you found your purpose. That's what I love about, that's what I love about being a human is we have every opportunity to be kind. We have every opportunity. Oh, my internet's a little slow. We have every opportunity to make someone's day. Reaching out to Al, I mean, of all people, Alex Trebek. That's, you think he's got everything in the world and he's fine and he's taken care of and he doesn't care what your opinion is. But you proved right there, John, that's not true. Everybody needs to hear they're valued and appreciated and worthy. And I think that's why you and I really connect on this level of wanting to help people in coaching. I want everybody in the world to know they're valuable and no matter what you're going through, you can. And you said something that my listeners know I say all the time. Whatever our experience is, there's a reason for that and not there's a reason for everything kind of, catchphrase, but I mean it's an experience I asked for to do something for someone else to raise other people up. And when you said, and I wrote it down, you said, I knew why I had to have a brain tumor. That just melted me. And you took it and you ran with it to serve. And I love that. So I didn't mean to, I just want to interject there real quick. Cause I mean, we could just listen to you like forever. I just love your story. And I love just it reminds me of the giving tree, the you give things from where you are and it doesn't take away. It keeps giving even though it seems like you're losing something or from the outside. Giving to me is powerful and it helped me heal. When I can help someone else, that helps me heal, right, John? Is that what that magic and putting that smile on Darren's face and going to talk to Alex, it makes a difference, right?
I live my life feeling that it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Amen. Amen. Right?
And that has bit me in the butt numerous times. But it's always given me opportunities that I would never have had if I just sat and said, can I do this? It's just you got to take the bull by the horns and run with it. And if someone's going to stop you, they got to put a steamroller in your path.
Yeah.
And most people don't because they see your passion, they see your desire to achieve whatever that goal is, and they see you're 100% committed to it.
No,
They're not going to stand in your way,
no. Yeah.
you know?
You're there to
They're going to
inspire.
say, "Okay, give let's give it a shot and see if John can do it or see if you can do it."
Yeah. Yeah.
We are our own worst enemy because we let our limiting beliefs stop us from moving forward in our lives. I don't ask my clients to leap out of their comfort zones. I ask my clients to tiptoe out of their comfort zones. And that is a huge difference between stepping out and tiptoeing out.
Yeah.
Because the more you tiptoe out, the more you feel accomplished, the more you feel like maybe it is possible. My coaching method is called the I'm possible method. And of course, I'm possible, rate the word down into two words. Instead of impossible, it's I'm possible. And that's my coaching method. And with my clients, I delve deep into what their trauma is or what their limiting beliefs, and I ask them to challenge those beliefs. So many adults don't dream anymore. As a kid, I had two great parents and no siblings. So my parents would have friends over for dinner. And they'd come and be introduced to me, and they're like, "Hi, John, how are you? My name's so and so. What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I would sit there and go, I want to be a fireman. No, wait. I want to be an astronaut. No, wait, I want to be a rock star. And then I would go into my room and grab two rulers and start banging on everything I could, making drum noises and get on my air guitar. And I'm in this land of make believe where I could last an hour until mom called me for dinner. And at some point, we grow out of that behavior and we get a job and we get in a relationship and we get a career and we get stuck and we get to retirement age. I mean, I just turned 60. And you look back and you go, well, I did everything I think I wanted to do, but why do I feel so empty? And it's a simple answer because you're living out someone else's dream.
Yeah.
You're living your mom's dream, your dad's dream, your sister's dream, your aunt's dream, your teacher's dream. But you weren't living your own dream. And how unfulfilling is that? So we spend a lot of time with my coaching clients learning how to dream again, learning how to remove any restrictions. Everything is possible if you want it so badly. And what do you want your legacy to be? What steps can you take right now in the moment to achieve what you truly want? That is the greatest exercise.
Yeah.
I know.
And it is changing all those beliefs, like you say. It's breaking down and throwing out that stinking thinking where, the don'ts, I can't, I shouldn't, I impossibles, you're absolutely correct because until we get rid of that, there's no way to move forward to the I'm possibles. There's no way to believe that you can achieve that thing that you want. And I agree with you about the dream. In my opinion, believe that for so many years I was doing have tos and not want tos. And when I finally was allowed to do passion, something that I was so passionate about, I was never allowed to be passionate about anything in my growing up. It's like you said, my grandson is turning 18 tomorrow. And, there's this fine line between child and adult. And we're trying to help him to go into adulthood, but I don't want him to lose his dreams either. Like you said, he's a drummer in a band. And yes, I want him to be a responsible adult, but I also want him to keep doing what he's passionate about. How do you tell people how to balance both of them? How do you make a living and be responsible and take care of yourself, but also be able to do your passion if that's not the thing that brings you the money or the icky guy where it's combined? What do you tell your clients? How do we balance what I love to do and what I have to do?
You use the phrase, I have to. I suggest is I get to.
Yeah. Yep.
And that
Yep.
change in mindset is empowering. I also urge my clients to remove one three-letter word from their vocabulary. That word is try. There is no trying. There's doing or there's not
I'm
doing.
doing Yoda. That's a Yoda.
But tr- but trying is an excuse to stop.
Yeah.
Trying is
Yeah.
an excuse to say, well, I gave it my best shot. I tried and it didn't work out, so I'm gonna go back to the old behavior. No. Every time you don't reach a goal, it's a learning experience. You need to stop, take stock in what you learned from that experience and incorporate that so that you can be better the next time so you do succeed.
Yeah.
One of my other catchphrases is feed your heart with your art.
Yes.
And what that means basically is that if you love to do something, you have a passion for doing something, make that your fuel and share that passion in everything you do because people will take notice and they'll feel this sense of power coming from you and this sense of commitment because you're doing something with something you're passionate about.
Yeah.
It's what makes working worthwhile. You
Oh,
may not enjoy every aspect of what you do, but
yeah.
you can find something in your job description that you know you have the skills to exceed at. So exceed at doing those things. Trust me, your managers and bosses will recognize what you do well. And if they're a good manager, if they're a good boss, they'll redefine your job description so that you can use your innate skills and passions to get a job done. You
Yeah.
know,
I remember
there's
thinking,
no,
like when I was in corporate, I was thinking, God, this just it just stinks. I hated the corporate world. It just wasn't who I am. I'm a creative and I'm independent and but I want to say this to the listeners, something that John just said that I love is make your passion your fuel. I looked back when I started my own business and I look back at the stuff I hated in the corporate world that helped me in the business world, my own entrepreneur business. It helped me when I went
okay,
on to another job and I got promoted to be a supervisor. All that stuff that past supervisor did that was hurtful and wrong, and it made me a better supervisor. So, what I would say to people is, everything has an action or a reaction, but remember that everything that you're going through, it's a learning or a teaching moment. And so if you're going through something that it just you think you're in a rut or it sucks, take what John said, take in and reframe it into what does this get to? What am I getting to learn right now? What am I getting to absorb that I can use later? I think that sometimes is helpful to sort of smooth out the dissatisfaction that we can be in some situations before we can make that little baby step to move to what we really want to do. Don't you agree, John?
absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, you need to leave your mark on this world.
Mm.
You need to inspire other people.
Yeah. Oh, that shine your light while you're here. You're here to shine a light and to do something. Don't waste a life. I think that's my favorite phrase that I say is you don't, if I could go back in time, it would be just, oh, sorry. Um, it would be just time that I spent too long on some things, and sometimes it's like 12 years, John, for 12 years, and then looking at you now, you were a different person in those 12 years, but your timing is your timing, right? You needed 12 years, not 11, not 13. You needed those 12 years. And in some, like Darren, oh my gosh, you just saved me 8 more years. Or some people are really fast learners. I'm not at all. I'm a repetitive failure learner. But there's no timing that anyone can say there's a manual for in your life that says you better not give this bad relationship a year or more than a year. That's not how this works, right, John? You needed those 12 years. What can we tell our listeners
Right?
about time in a place where you might not be in the best place, but that you can see a brighter future? What can we tell them about that?
Keep your mind open for opportunities to learn, to be inspired by other people. Don't shut down to the world. You know, I have two more quick stories to tell you. Um, you know, I spent 12 years learning how not to hide my face.
Mm.
And March of 2020 came. And what happened to all of us?
COVID.
We were forced to hide our face with a COVID mask.
Yeah. Wow.
And not only was it now politically correct to hide your face, but it was government mandated.
Right?
And I sat there and I'm like, no can do. So I found this company online and I started wearing those face masks in public. And strangers would look at it and not understand and move on. But people who knew me would do a double take and say to themselves, holy cow, John chooses not to hide his face, even through a global pandemic. You know, let your personality, let your opinions, let your views lead you. And if you need to be open to other people's perspective, though. You know, our country is so divided to this point. It's because no one will listen to the other side. No one will leave the opportunity that there's truth somewhere in someone else's argument. You got to keep an open mind. And then if it doesn't resonate with you, fine. You know, the other story is that recently I coach not only people looking for ways to get out of their own way, but I also teach magicians. And it's funny, you know, I have a studio in my house, a performance space, and I'll have a magician come over for the first time, and they reach into their bag and they pull out a deck of cards, and I say to them, "Oh, I'm sorry, we won't be using those cards today." And they put those cards back in their bag, and they pull out a set of coins, and they're ready to learn some coin magic. And I say, "Oh, I'm sorry, we won't be using those coins today either." And they look at me with this look like, what the hell am I paying you for? You're not going to teach me any magic tricks? I say, no. We're going to explore why you choose magic as your art form. We're going to explore what you want your audience to learn about you through your magic. We're going to learn about what lessons you have to share through your magic. How to take what you're passionate about and have me help you design a routine, magic routine around that. Because when you start performing about something that you're passionate about, you can't help but being engaged because you're authentic. You're living your authentic self. And people are attracted to that authenticity, even if they don't enjoy whatever you're talking about. It doesn't matter.
Ah.
But you stand out in a crowd, you know? And some of the magicians you see on TV where I work with that all of a sudden they're taking their magic from a B to an A plus just because they put themselves into their magic. They listen
Right,
to their
right.
audience.
Wow.
And the other story is a recent win I had. So I had a magic student, I think he's 26. And his dad has been paying for his magic lessons. And we made some progress. And all of a sudden, his dad called me and said, John, I'm sorry. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to pay for my son's magic lessons because I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer.
Oh.
And doctors are giving me 6 months to a year to live. But when I told my son about that, he immediately closed off to me. And he didn't know what to say. He was so surprised and devastated by that news. I only have my son and he only has me in this world. And he chose to go into hiding. He chose to stop reaching out to me and stop being my supporter and being my hero. And that's killing me. And John, I know my son loves the time you spend with him. And if there's anything you can possibly do, please, for me, please. I said, don't worry, I got you. And I called his son that afternoon and he wasn't expecting the call. So it was like, John, hi, how are you? And I was like, we're not talking about magic today. I got a call from your dad and he shared his impending cancer. And he told me that you not engage with him and kind of hide in your own little world. And I said, I'm going to make you a promise right now that if you don't fix that relationship, if you don't suck it up and reach back out to your dad and support him through his biggest time of need, you will regret it for the rest of your life. It will affect every job you have. It'll affect every relationship with women, with family members, with you. Who knows? It's going to affect everything you do and who you are. And you're
Yeah.
going to become a bitter old man.
Mhm.
And now you have an opportunity to fix that. And he started getting very emotional. He says, I'm so sorry. I don't know what to do. And I said, it's simple. What is your dad's favorite meal? He said, oh, Hawaiian pizza. I said, great. Friday night, go to your favorite pizza joint, get the largest Hawaiian pizza with extra pineapples, and drop by your dad's unannounced. Go in, put it on the coffee table or the dining room table and say, Dad, come on, let's eat. Let's chat. And the next day his dad called me and said, I don't know what you did. You are a magician. I'm speechless. I said, oh, really? What happened? And he said, my son came over last night unannounced and brought me my favorite pizza. And I said, with extra pineapple. And he started laughing. And in that moment, when I hung up that conversation, I reflected on it. And I realized I had saved two lives by that simple action of being present and interjecting into their relationship. I had no business being in their relationship, but I was willing to risk the loss of a coaching client, the loss of a friend, to get his son out of his own way. And when I think about that, I get goosebumps. It's like I literally saved two lives.
That is amazing. That is, uh, I want to listen to you for, hours and hours, but we do have to wrap up, and I want to make sure that we get in all of the information that where listeners can reach out to you, where they can come to you if they want coaching, where they can come to you for magic coaching, for all kinds of things. So I'm going to give you the floor, the stage right now. You tell us what they can do to reach out to you.
My master site is johnkippen.com. JOHNKIPP as in Paul, EN.com. My coaching site is kitchencoaching.com. My email address is john@johnkippen.com. Send me a note. Say you want to talk. There's no charge to talk. If you feel like any anything I said today resonated with you and gave you even a glimmer of hope, get on a call with me. Who knows? Maybe we can create magic together. Maybe we can get you out of your rut. You know, maybe we can get you to look forward to getting out of bed on Mondays. And you can go on YouTube. You can just go to Google and put in John Space Kippen. You'll get two people. You'll get a Australian plastic surgeon, which is ironic as hell. And yeah, and you get me.
Oh my God.
And you'll see I've done dozens of podcast interviews, and I've been featured in dozens of magazines because people see my passion for living and for helping others, and they want to write about it. I have a book called Playing the Hand You Were Dealt, and for all the listeners who were there, if you want a copy of my book, go to johnkippen.com/free gift, and you'll be able to download a PDF version of my book. And that book the foreword was written by my good friend Jamie Lee Curtis. And that's for our part two episode on how I got to be so close with Jamie. All I can say is she adopted me as her third child. She saw in me my potential long before I saw my own potential. And she supported me she knew me before my surgery and after my surgery. And she was my cheerleader.
Yeah.
And we all need cheerleaders in the world. We all need people who want to help us and will get nothing in their way to stop us helping others. It's the meaning of life, is to find joy and help others find joy. No matter how religious you are, whether or not you believe in heaven or hell or whatever, we have limited time on this earth.
Yeah.
And the more notches on your belt of inspiring others just by being yourself you can get, the better off you are and the better off the world is.
Yes. That's why we're here. That's why we're
That's
here.
all I got to say.
I'm so
That's my
grateful.
story, and I'm sticking to it.
You stick to it because we loved your story, John. And I am just honored that you were here today on our podcast. And just like I said, we could listen to you for hours. You remind me of what came to mind was Patch Adams, when he just, he healed those children, but with laughter. And I think laughter heals everything, magic, anything that takes us out of sort of reality for a moment and gives us that joy. Like you just said, life is about finding joy. And if you're not finding joy, listeners, then you need to seek it out. You need to go find something that brings you that joy and feed your heart with your art. And being different is your superpower, in the words of my fantastic guest, John Kippen. And we just could not be more grateful for him today. So, whew, you want to talk about resilience and empowerment? You give him a call. Don't forget he's at johnkippen.com and kippencoaching.com. So either one, reach out to him. If you need my women who are coming out of relationships that have been toxic or abusive or have made you lose your self-esteem and your self-confidence, that's where I come in at lifecoachmaureen.com. And don't forget, John's book is Playing the Hand You Are Dealt. So go look that up. Available on Amazon, I'm guessing. Yes.
Amazon, Barnes and Noble, you
Perfect.
name it.
Anywhere books are sold. that's where you can find his book, which is really inspirational, and I'm certain you'll really get some hope and in saying that if John could do it, then what am I doing? Why can't I do it? Because you can do anything you want. So, my books also, excuse me, on Amazon. My two adult books. My dog is more enlightened than I am, and my dog is my relationship coach. Both taking the example of the dogs to teach you how to just chill out, get out of your own way, just like John said, and just live like a dog, do what you want to do when you want to do it. That's really, they only have to be here for 10 to 15 years because they haven't figured out. We're here for 80 to 100 if we're lucky because we can't figure it out. And we can't figure out how to get out of our own dang way because our brains are too busy worrying about stuff. So go get those two books. And then for your little guys with Christmas coming up, my book, My Dog Bexley is Just Like Me, talks about how we all have these things that are the same. If we look around, like John was talking about, in today's society, there's so much diversity and there's so much separation. Our leadership is all about sort of tearing us all apart. Let's bring ourselves back together and look for what we have in common, the commonalities that can bind us in kindness and love. And then my cat Grayson is not like me, is on the same front also. Let's, even if someone has differences, we can still love them and embrace them. And like John said, have an open mind. So those are my two children's book for your early readers. That would be from, 1 to 7, 8. And they're really fun and they're easy, repetitive, rhyming, and good for teaching children how to be mindful. So we want to start them off early. I love you all for being here, and I just thank you so much for my get to, which I say is always this. This is my get to come here and whatever ripple I can put out in that lake with my little pebble. John is right there with me. We're these pebbles that we're hoping we will touch as many people as possible. And when you hear this, then you help someone, and so on and so forth. And that's how we become a better society and better humanity. So I love you all. Don't forget, my doggy boutique is mydogiseverything.net for healthy treats and paw bombs and all kinds of fun gifts for your puppies. And we are around Austin going to be doing a lot more pop-up shops. So if you're in the Austin, Texas area, just look us up and reach out. I'll tell you where we're going to be. So until next week, y'all, please take care of yourself, take care of each other. Most of all, please take care of my furry babies, and let's make sure that we adopt and do not shop. Plenty of furry babies out there waiting for a forever home to love you and teach you how to love unconditionally. So I love you all. Till next week. Thanks. Mwah.